Welcome to the Audrey Dahlgren Show. Get ready. We're going on athletic adventures all over the great state of Michigan. And the show begins now. Here's your host, Audrey Dahlgren.
Hello, what is shaking on this Thursday? I hope it's going swell for everyone. This is, of course, the hashtag Throwback Thursday show. And with Detroit Tigers prospect Matt Manning making his major league debut tonight, it made me think of all of the St. Louis Cardinal players over the years who got to experience this moment during my 3 years in St. Louis. And it's such a wonderful moment, especially for the families. That's the part I always enjoyed, was talking to the parents or the grandparents or maybe the siblings, just anybody related to that person who was going to be making their major league debut, and listening to the guys themselves kind of just talk about it and how it was going to be for them, and who was going to be in the stands, and just this lifelong dream coming to fruition is something that just always just sticks out, and it's awesome to see and to listen to. And so one story that I will share, since it is the hashtag Throwback Thursday show, Luke Voigt, who now plays for the New York Yankees, he made his MLB debut with the Cardinals in his hometown, so at Busch Stadium. And he's from Wildwood, Missouri, and went to Lafayette High School. So everybody considered him to be the hometown boy. It's a suburb of St. Louis, the Lafayette High School that he went to. And so his grandma Joan was so excited for him. And she was probably one of the sweetest ladies that I think that I have ever met. And so as an incentive for him, this is when he was in the minor leagues, of course, and as an incentive for him to perform well at the plate, she told him that she would pay him $25 a home run. And she goes, well, that was the wrong thing to do, because once he got up to the majors, she continued to pay him, but then she realized, okay, he's in the majors now, so I'm not going to do that anymore. But because he had a slugging percentage of 700 something around there, and when he joined the Cardinals. So also too, she would pay him $1 per hit. So think about that. You know, you're getting $25 for a home run, $1 for a hit, and it was just, like I said, a great thing to learn about, you know, to share that story, to be able to share that story with people was phenomenal. And just it means so much to the families and to the players themselves. And they're just great people. It's one of many stories that I could share about players breaking into the show. And like I said, it's just a wonderful moment for them and their families. And so tonight at Angel Stadium, that is exactly what's going to happen for Matt Manning, the Tigers' third best prospect. He is considered to be the Tigers' third best prospect behind Spencer Torkelson and Riley Green. And so he's going to be making his major league debut this evening in his home state. He is from Elk Grove, California. And his family is, of course, going to be in attendance for Game 1 of Detroit's 4-game series against the Los Angeles Angels. This is something that we're going to delve into pretty exclusively with Cody Stavenhagen from The Athletic. He's going to be joining us shortly. I'm not sure if he's in California or not right now with the team, but we will know in a little bit. And so we're just trying to get a hold of him pretty quickly here. And so, yeah, this is a very exciting time because a lot of people, I mean, not just for Matt and for his family, but really for the Tigers organization, because everybody's kind of been waiting for this moment. They refer to Matt Manning as part of the big three in the future of the Tigers starting rotation. Obviously, the other two players in that big three would be Casey Mize and Tarik Skubal. Tarik Skubal last night pitching for the Tigers. He did okay. I mean, he's definitely making a lot of progress. He allowed 2 or 3 early home runs, so those were the only 3 earned runs that he allowed in the game in the series finale yesterday against the Kansas City Royals. But he went 6 innings, 6 hits, 3 earned runs, and 7 strikeouts overall. And he had a really big strikeout midway through the game. I can't remember exactly what inning that it was, but it kind of set the offense to put them up in a good situation where they were able to go on. Willie Castro came up and had a 2-run home run. It was a part of a 3-run inning for Detroit to give them the lead essentially in the game, and that's how they were able to hold on from there for the win to get their first sweep in Kansas City since 2014, 7 years ago. And so that was quite an accomplishment. AJ Hinch had a little something funny to say about that, and that's what I wanted to touch upon with Cody when we're able to get him on the phone here shortly. And so, yeah, I think the allure, like I said, surrounding Matt Manning is going to be huge because he was taken 9th overall in 2016 by the Tigers. And I don't know, it's just going to be really interesting to see because, you know, you mentioned that I brought this up, that he was part of a dominant group of starters for Double-A Erie in 2019, along with Casey Mize. You know, Casey Mize was the 2018 number 1 overall pick, and Tarek Skubal in 2018, the 9th rounder. And so he's been having a little bit of struggles, though. What's interesting about this call-up, too, which Cody will delve into with him more when we're able to get him on, like I said. But what's interesting about this Matt Manning thing is he's not pitching very well. He wasn't pitching very well right now in the minor league system with Toledo. You know, it's not like he was having these great performances. And so his ERA, I believe, was somewhere around 9.23. And so he's getting called up for more of a need standpoint, obviously with Matthew Boyd and Alex Lang going on the 10-day injured list. And Alex, what's the status here? Because I can keep rambling on.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard back from Cody. Just double check that number real quick when you get a chance too, just because you sent that one manually. Just make sure there's not a digit missing. But yeah, I've called him a few times, sent him a text. So we got the bat signal out for Cody. Hopefully we'll get a response here soon.
Yeah, because I'm just rambling over here, going on and on, you know, talking about all the things that we're supposed to talk about. And so let me send him a message really quick just to make sure. But because I just don't want to keep, you know, blabbering on. Okay. Well, while we wait for him, I don't know if you've been listening to me or not.
I've been frantically trying to connect with Cody, so I've been out of tune for like the last 5 minutes or so.
That's okay. So, I'll get your opinion, I guess, since we're waiting for him to call in. You know, because Matt Manning is making his major league debut tonight in Anaheim. You know, by the way, that's going to be a really late game because it is in California. It's like a 9:38 p.m. first pitch. So unfortunately for Detroit Tiger fans, you know, you're going to have to stay up late if you want to see this kid make his major league debut. But where's your excitement level surrounding this? Because he is a part of essentially, you know, the big three that they claim.
It's the actually, I think we got Cody calling us right now. So do you want me to give that opinion real quick, or no? I'll just give him.
How about after we'll get your opinion?
Perfect.
Yeah, not that Alex's opinion isn't important because it is so much, especially because he's a big baseball guy. So it'll be I'll be curious to get his.
But we just lost him there for a sec. All right, let me give him a call back.
Okay. Yeah, it's a late game tonight, 9:38. Like I said, 9:38 p.m. pitch. To begin a 4-game series with the Angels. And Matthew Boyd was supposed to start on Saturday in this series, but of course he is out, as I mentioned earlier, on the 10-day injured list due to that discomfort in his left arm that he's having, a tightness, or I believe they were calling it is tightness. And so it looks like we do have Cody on the line now, which is fantastic. And so, hi, Cody. How are you? Thank you for, hopping on and doing this with us. I gave the whole rundown of what's going on tonight in Anaheim, but more importantly, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing okay. Sorry for missing you there. But yeah, we're, exciting day in Tigers land with Matt Manning pitching tonight. So yeah, hopefully it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, we've been talking about this too in terms of how this is a long anticipated debut for Matt Manning. And I'm curious to know, how do you think that he's going to do tonight? I mean, do you think that he'll be overwhelmed by the moment, or will he be calm and collected?
Yeah, I think knowing Matt Manning and his demeanor, he'll probably be a pretty calm, collected guy. I mean, he has kind of a laid-back personality. He's, from California and kind of has that vibe about him a little bit. But when he gets on the mound, he can, I've heard him described as a bulldog before, and he's going to go out there and do what he's always done. Now, how will he actually fare? That's a whole other question. It's kind of hard to say. Obviously, you look at the numbers, and he got hit around a lot in AAA. Look, Matt Manning has top-tier stuff. We've seen it. He can throw in the upper 90s. He has a great curveball when it's working. We've seen him, strike out Bryce Harper with 3 fastballs in spring training. We've seen him have some really nice outings against really good hitters in spring settings. It's going to come down to, can he execute consistently at the major league level? Can he dial in that secondary stuff in addition to his fastball? That's kind of what he was struggling with the most in AAA. Did a lot better in his most recent outing down there. But obviously it's a whole other challenge up here at this level and against a pretty good Angels lineup at that.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you in Anaheim?
I'm not.
Okay.
I wish I was.
Well, yeah, as you mentioned, he certainly wasn't called up from a performance standpoint, but the Tigers do need him. However, this call-up has kind of been in the works, essentially, before Matthew Boyd and Alex Lang were injured, correct? I mean, it's not like, it was kind of in a conversation, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think that shows you just how desperate the Tigers really have been for pitching for a while. I mean, after going through a bullpen day on their last home stand, they used a lot of pitching after Jose Urena had a short start. They were going to need another arm, especially with Spencer Turnbull on the IL. So I think this is something that the coaching staff and the front office had been talking about. Yeah, even before the Boyd and Lang injuries, Matt Manning is on the 40-man roster. He was kind of the guy that if you really need an arm, it made sense to bring him up. So they were definitely contemplating it. And then, when Boyd and Lang got hurt, it was kind of a no-brainer to go ahead and make that one official. And then obviously they had to go seek some additional pitching from AAA as well. But yeah, I think this was something that was going to happen. It's kind of their hand was forced a little bit by some limits with the 40-man roster and by injuries, and they needed an arm. And with Matt Manning being on the 40-man. And, hey, even though he struggled in AAA, he does still have good stuff. He did show enough in that last outing where they were confident, okay, maybe he's getting it back on track a little bit. Like A.J. Hinch said, you can't just sit there and wait until September for his ERA to go back down to 3 or whatever. You kind of have to look at how he's pitching, how he's actually performing, and make your decision based on that a little more than the numbers.
You mentioned, too, I believe A.J. Hinch was saying how he likes the mental state that he's in.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting because, after you get knocked around when you have an 8 ERA in AAA, I think it'd be easy to be pretty frustrated to, like you mentioned earlier, to be overwhelmed by a call to the big leagues, to think, oh, can you handle this? But it sounds like, again, Matt Manning has a pretty calm and confident personality just from my limited interactions with him. I think the fact that he's coming off a pretty good start in which he went 6 innings, he allowed only 2 runs, and also beyond even that stat line, talking to people in the Tigers, sounds like he really had his best overall combination of stuff in that outing. I think that was good for his mental state, for his confidence to know, okay, yeah, I can do this again. And, Matt Manning even mentioned having a conversation with Tarek Skubal. They both live in downtown Detroit, and they hung out for, a couple hours before Matt's most recent start in AAA and just kind of caught up and talked about life and about baseball, and Matt said that kind of got him where he needed to be. So it is one of those reminders that there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes with these players and their lives than we're often privy to. But if A.J. Hinch feels like Matt Manning is in a good state of mind, I think that's a good sign.
What do you mean you don't know everything that goes on at every second of the day of their lives?
Oh, I wish I did. Well, maybe I don't. There's probably some stuff I don't want to know.
Yeah, no. I mean, and Cody, too, when you mention all the struggles that he has had in AAA Toledo this season, why do you think that he has, had some adversity, or what do you think has been the issue for him down there?
Yeah, I think it's come back to what's been somewhat of a common criticism of Matt Manning throughout the scouting community for a while. It's like, how well-rounded is his arsenal? I mean, he has a great fastball. When he's at his best, he has a really good curveball, but it seems like that curveball wasn't quite there for a lot of his AAA starts. He's been a little inconsistent with it for a while now. He was working on a slider in spring training, which it seems like he never quite mastered and kind of scrapped. He's had this changeup that he's really had to improve from the time he was drafted, and he had a lot of success with it in Double-A in 2019. But it seems like he was struggling to spot that breaking ball in Triple-A. So he was pretty much just pounding hitters with fastballs. So they were either able to sit on fastball or wait for a hanging breaking ball over the plate. I think, it sounds like his fastball was almost too over the plate, even when he was throwing it in the strike zone. So I think it comes back to he needs to be able to use at least 3 pitches. He needs to be able to use them well. Because that, even though his fastball has a lot of life on it, if hitters are just able to sit fastball or wait for something over the plate, there's only so much he can do. And so I think that's something that's going to be a continued part of his developmental track here. It's something we've kind of seen with him for a while, even though he is a really talented pitcher. We've even seen it, similar things with Casey Mize and Tarek Skubal as they had kind of a rocky start to their major league careers and then really dialed in. You have to learn how to use your arsenal. You have to learn how to attack hitters in different ways, especially at this level where, number one, the hitters are really good and there's so much data and there's so much video that if you can't be kind of a multi-dimensional pitcher, you're likely to struggle a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. And, it was even shown yesterday in the series finale against the Royals with a couple of pitches that Tarek Skubal threw. Because, as you mentioned, everybody in the big leagues is in the big leagues for a reason. They're really good hitters. And, that was just a couple of instances that he got dinged early on when it came to some of his pitches. So that makes a lot of sense. And there's also a lot of talk about, obviously, him and Skubal and Mize as the big 3. We went into it a little bit before you hopped on with us, but I want to know, do you think that is warranted? And, a lot of people do kind of think that maybe Manning is the one who has the best ceiling out of the 3.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely, I don't know, it's always like a tricky, line to balance when you're talking about prospects in baseball or any sport. I mean, these are all 3 guys who are ranked in the top 25 prospects in the entire game coming into the season. Different rankings have them in a different order because that's how hard it can be to project players. But these guys are legit. They're the real deal. I think they're going to have good, long major league careers as long as they're healthy. Now, does that mean they're all 3 going to be Cy Young winners or all 3 going to the Hall of Fame or even be as good as, a Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, Rick Porcello type trio? There's no way to know. It's probably unfair to put quite that level of expectations on any of these guys. But, these guys are really good pitchers. Again, we've seen it. The stuff is there. It's real. They weren't highly touted for no reason. In terms of predicting the future, I mean, some of it's hard to know. These guys aren't going to figure everything out until they figure it out. It'll test them mentally. It'll test them physically. We'll see how their arms hold up. We've already seen Casey Mize and Tarek Skubal make some really good adjustments at the major league level, so that bodes well. And then, when you get into the conversation of who has the highest ceiling, that's always an interesting one. It's one fans and people love to debate. There is definitely a school of thought out there that maybe Matt Manning has the highest ceiling because you look at the fastball, the curveball, his ability to kind of dominate. When all 3 of these guys were in Erie in 2019, Matt Manning had the best overall stat line. He was the Eastern League Pitcher of the Year. I personally kind of think Manning might have the highest ceiling, but also the highest risk for reasons we've talked about. I think he really needs to develop a tighter breaking ball, now be able to really be a 3 or maybe even 4 pitch pitcher. There's kind of this thought with Casey Mize, like he's the most sure thing to have success at the major league level, but will he really dominate? Will he really be a Cy Young type guy? I don't know. I would say based on what we've seen out of Mize so far this year, I mean, certainly looks like a guy who can pitch at a really high level to me. Tarik Skubal is kind of the guy I like to think has the highest ceiling, just because when his stuff is on, it can be really dominant. He has a good mix of secondary stuff. But again, all these guys have a lot to learn, a lot to still figure out, and more tests to come. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to look back in 10 years and see, okay, like who actually had the highest ceiling? How did they all shake out? For now, it's all just fun speculation as much as anything.
Right. And you know who I feel does a pretty good job of keeping everything in check when it comes to all of that is A.J. Hinch. I mean, he seems to be pretty, what's the word I'm looking for here? But he seems to be pretty, like, in tune and in touch with tempering some expectations.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's the sign of a guy who's been around the game his whole life, who has managed at other stops, who has managed prospects who had success, like Alex Bregman, and he was in the Astros organization, when Brady Aiken was the number 1 overall pick who never came to fruition. So he knows how it goes. He was a highly touted prospect himself who never quite had a ton of success at the major league level as a player, even though he played for several years in the majors. So I think he knows the talent is real. That's why these guys are up here. I think he's not afraid to test them, to throw them to the fire a little bit. I think he's also realistic and understands that this is a really hard game. But sometimes the best way to learn is to get your teeth kicked in at the major league level a little bit. And I think he's, kind of given that to the players. Is, hey, go out there, do the best you can. We want to see what you have. We have confidence in your ability. But he's not here to hype anyone up as a future Hall of Famer, because, again, that's really not fair to really to any player at this level at this point in their careers.
Right. I thought it was pretty funny, or sort of funny, I guess, because after the win yesterday, when Chris McCoskey mentioned to him that, it was the first sweep in Kansas City since 2014, and he was just like, oh, nice. Sort of in a, like, these are not the things that we need to be getting excited about. But with this being his first season with the club, what has impressed you about his managerial style and overall just his approach to the game and the expectations that he does have for the Tigers?
Yeah, it's kind of funny, when AJ was hired, a lot of people were like, oh, well, a manager doesn't actually make that big of a difference, especially in today's game. The manager doesn't have as much control, as much say, and a lot of that's true, and there is no real way to quantify the impact of a manager. But I have to say, if you don't think a manager can make a difference, then you probably haven't been paying attention to the 2021 Detroit Tigers. I think it started in spring training just kind of with a culture change. Everything was more serious, like playtime was over. I think the attention to detail and the level of preparation this staff brings really is on another level, just from the amount of data that's given to players in terms of, positioning on defense, or really looking at how their stuff plays best for if you're a pitcher. I think those little things have really started to add up here over time. And yeah, Hinch has kind of brought this mindset where just because we're young, just because we're in a rebuild, we're not going to accept losing. We're not going to accept being awful. We're going to try to play good baseball. I think he's also let this team really play into its strengths. I mean, that's meant running the bases aggressively. That's meant using the stolen base a little more than you might see, in today's game. I think it's really figuring out a way to scrap across runs at times. Again, let guys play to their strengths, let them be who they are. Use the bullpen creatively, a lot of mixing and matching and finding the right matchups, rather than worrying about, okay, who's my 7th inning guy, who's my 8th inning guy, who's the closer. So I think we've seen a pretty creative style of managing on the field, combined with, a very serious, hey, we're here to win demeanor behind the scenes. And I think that's definitely paid dividends the deeper we get into this thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can see that for sure. And, of course, the hot button issue surrounding Major League Baseball right now has to do with pitchers and the use of the sticky substances to better grip the baseball. What are the conversations like within the Tigers organization when it comes to this?
Yeah, I to be honest, I don't have full knowledge of those conversations. I know AJ Hinch said, when MLB sent out its memo fully explaining the rules and policies, he said he had 3 different meetings. He met with the players, he met with his coaches, he met with additional staff and the traveling party, all separately to pretty much explain this is going to be zero tolerance. We're not going to be the team that gets caught cheating, that is using sticky stuff. This was obviously on the Tigers' radar and every team's radar even before the season, and it's a whole other level of serious now. I think given his background, given what happened in Houston with the sign stealing, I think A.J. Hinch is probably being proactive and almost over-communicating things like this to really make sure there's no gray area, to make sure everyone knows and is aware. At the end of the day, it's still kind of a player-by-player thing. If there's a guy who uses spider tack or a sticky substance and has success with it, the GM or the manager or the pitching coach can't, physically prevent him from doing that. But I'd say, most of the players in the Tigers organization, I don't know. I've kind of gotten the sense it wasn't quite as big of an issue around here. I don't know that for a fact. But it seems like, if nothing else, especially given his history, especially given probably the lessons he learned from maybe not communicating enough, given the whole sign stealing thing in Houston, it sounds like, the Tigers have really tried to lay it out and say, zero tolerance. We're not going to be the ones who get in trouble for this.
Yeah, and I mean, that makes a lot of sense because obviously he went through a whole scandal in Houston that, as you mentioned, he's probably wants to be over communicative, he wants to get it out there, which you can't blame him for. They always say too much communication, it's never enough. You can never communicate enough. And so yeah, it'll be interesting though to see how, like I said, tonight plays out with Matt Manning. And I really do appreciate you coming on the show to talk to us about all of this. And it's going to be a late one though.
Yeah, that's how it goes with these West Coast games. I'll have the coffee machine on for sure.
For sure. Well, Cody, thank you so much for coming on, and I do appreciate it.
All right, thanks a bunch.
All right, that was Cody Stavenhagen from The Athletic. Such a fan of The Athletic's work, and I know that Graham always mentions that too. I love always having guys on from The Athletic because they are the ones that are really in the know, and they just do a great job. And so good stuff right there. Now, Alex, you can give your take on Matt Manning if you want.
Oh, I don't have a big take. I mean, I'm just excited like the rest of us. I mean, like you said, it's the third piece of the big 3 that we had been waiting on for a few years now. And Matt Manning, guy that's, big guy with a lot of velocity. Just excited to see what he's got and to follow his career, and hopefully he'll be a mainstay for the Tigers rotation.
Yeah, and it'll be fun to see how he fares, and it's going to be a little, as Cody was mentioning, it will be somewhat probably bumpy here and there. And too, with when everything they figure out what's going to happen with Matthew Boyd, of course, he may go back down. You just don't know how that's going to play out either, but he does want to pitch to stay. He said that yesterday. He goes, I'm going to be pitching to stay, and makes a lot of sense. The one thing, too, so going back to sort of this Major League Baseball's decision to come down with these new rules. They're going to be cracking down with the new rules come June 21st. Commissioner Rob Manfred said on Tuesday that Major League Baseball will enforce new guidelines around pitchers using foreign substances on baseballs. Umpires will be checking pitchers regularly for banned substances, even if clubs don't request searches. And I don't know if you were able to catch any of this, but Garrett Cole last night was pretty, I don't want to say fired up, but he kind of was pleading with Major League Baseball to not, the commissioner's office, to kind of listen to the pitchers about this issue, take it a little more serious. I do want to play it. I found a little snippet of like the soundbite, and so maybe if I can send that to you, and then so people can listen to just his stance on it.
Yeah.
So let me look for that, and I want to give it to you. I just sent it to your Twitter.
All right, yeah.
FYI.
Let me get it. I was looking at my email. Here we go.
Yeah, no,
All
I
right.
just sent it to your Twitter.
All right, just give me
it's
one
a clip.
quick second.
Yeah, so basically, though, I mean, Garrett Cole, who pitches for the New York Yankees, after 8 innings and beating the Blue Jays 3-2, he pleaded with the commissioner's office to listen to the pitchers about this issue. And, mentioning how they're the ones who are out there throwing the ball and they're not, and how the pitchers are the experts in the situation. And, mentioning too, they feel as though they're aligned in terms of the intent with the commissioner's office as well. And so I found this to be what he had to say after the game. I found this to be kind of interesting and compelling. And
yeah, and I have it right now for you.
okay, yeah, let's play it.
I just can't. It's hard. I mean, it's so hard to grip the ball. I just, for Pete's sake, it's part of the reason why almost every player on the field has something, regardless if they're a pitcher or not, to help them control the ball. I think that I don't have a solution, but again, we are aligned in a lot of areas with the commissioner's office on this, and please just talk to us. Please just work with us. I know you have the hammer here, but there's we've been living in a gray area for so long. I would just hate to see players get hurt. I would hate to see balls start flying at people's heads. I had a really tough time gripping the baseball tonight, especially early when it was windy. So I don't really care to be inflammatory here, Joel. So I'm just going to leave it at that.
So just if I could.
And then it gets cut off. But Alex, you being a baseball guy that you are, what's your stance on this? I mean, because is it a safety issue?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I go as far as to say it would be a safety issue. I mean, it definitely helps control the ball. I mean, this isn't no new thing. I mean, pitchers have been looking for new substances and new things to help enhance their grip for many years, but it's just kind of come to the forefront recently. But I mean, I'm kind of on the fence with it because I think it improves the game in the sense that pitchers pitch better. But what it really is doing is it's enhancing their spin rate to a level that these pitches are just so disgusting and so difficult to hit. I mean, you watch some of these guys, and it's no secret that I would say a majority of them are using something to help grip the ball. So in my case, my argument is if they're going to use it anyway, then let's regulate it and let's have it be a substance that everybody's using the same sort of thing to help grip the ball or help control the ball or help make better pitches. And I'm all about making the game as exciting as possible. So if this is something that's making the pitches better, then and I'm also on the same side with the hitters, that allowing them to be as strong and as athletic as possible by any means to make the game as exciting as possible. But if you're going to do it, then you just have to regulate it and allow it and understand that they're doing it anyway. So trying to go and get each guy and try to get them in trouble or I just think it's senseless because they're going to do it regardless. So I think you put something out there that regulates it and controls it and makes it so that the pitchers are pitching as good as possible and hitters are hitting as good as possible. And if that means that you have to add some sort of substance to the ball or a tacky, whatever that case may be, I'm for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if it could be a standard substance,
yeah,
that everybody has to, as long as it's the same thing.
And that's the problem is when you make it illegal and you're banning certain substances, you ban one substance, then they're just going to go and try to find a different one that kind of replicates the same thing. I mean, you saw it with all the steroid stuff too, and the performance enhancing drugs. I mean, you ban one, they just find something else, and now just a fraction or half of the league is getting this advantage where the other halves that are playing by the rules are now at a disadvantage. Instead, just put them all on the same playing field, allow them to use it and regulate it. And I don't know. That's where I'm at because I'm all about making the game as exciting as possible. I don't understand why we want to make the pitchers throw their pitch speed go down or their spin rate to go down or hitters to hit not as hard. Like, I don't understand why we want to pull that back. I think we just regulate it and make it, an even playing field.
Absolutely. And, that kind of goes, though, it's like it's the purists, though, of the game. That kind of goes, I feel like, as though that kind of goes back to some people who want the purity of the game. I get that, too, and that's great, on the surface, but the reality of it is when you're trying to make it a pure game, what you're really doing is having half of or probably less than half of the playing field that are going by the rules and are abiding by their pure game, and now you're forcing the other half, well, not forcing, but incentivizing the other half to break those rules. And now, is the game pure? I feel like the game would be more pure if everybody was on that same playing field. Yeah, and if it is a safety issue, that's the one thing that concerns me, is that if they're using it from a safety standpoint, so they're not like he's like Cole's
and there is a degree to that too, because when you're throwing the ball 100 miles an hour, and it only takes a slight degree of non-control, like he said, to hit a hitter in the head or something like that. Because once you get to those velocities and those spin rates, and if you're not able to control the ball adequately, the ball can go anywhere.
Yeah. Well, that is definitely something that to keep your eyes on over the next, couple of weeks, actually the whole rest of the season, because if they're going to be implementing those rules. Also, too, I'm thinking, okay, if umpires are going to be able to check pitchers basically essentially whenever they feel necessary, that is going to slow down the game so much. Mm-hmm. I mean, if they just randomly feel like you're just going to stop the game. And so, well, yeah, we're going to keep our eyes on that for sure. It'll be I'm curious to see how that's all going to shake out come June 21st, just because from a number of standpoints, as you were mentioning and Cole brought up and other people have been talking about. But we are going to take one quick break. When we come back, we're going to shift over to softball. Our Ian Kress was at Secchia Stadium this morning for the Division II state semifinal between Owosso and Gaylord. Owosso won, Alex. So we had Joe Ellen Smith, the coach of Owosso's softball team, on the show yesterday. So we're going to catch up with E and see how it transpired and just kind of what it was like at Secchia Stadium today. So stay with us.
Thinking of a new air conditioning unit for your home? Hi, Peggy Doty with Doty Mechanical. A new Carrier high-efficiency AC unit will lower your energy usage and increase your home comfort. Current Carrier Cool Cash offers and available utility rebates mean your savings have never been better.
Call Doty Mechanical today at 327-7777 or visit us at dotymechanical.com for your free estimate. For heating and cooling, the names to know, Doty Mechanical and Carrier. Turn to the experts.
A report says Apple considered a plan to launch its own subscription-based healthcare service. Wall Street Journal says the service linked data generated by Apple devices with virtual and in-person care provided by Apple doctors. The idea was conceived in 2016, but is stalled as Apple focuses its healthcare efforts on the Watch, Apple Health, and other products and services. Apple CEO Tim Cook has said that health will be one of Apple's greatest contributions to humanity, so in theory, the primary health service idea is not dead. Facebook is trying to slow down toxic conversations with a new tool that allows moderators to restrict comments on posts for a set period of time or limit all new comments on specific posts. There's also now conflict alerts, which proactively alert group admins there are unhealthy conversations going on. Atari is out with a partially retro console modeled after the Atari 2600 that is now available on their site and at Best Buy. It's got a built-in selection of 100 retro games and costs $300. Tech Report, Larry Olson, NBC News Radio.
Live across the Great Lakes State, you're connected to Michigan's most engaging and influential radio and television program, Michigan's Big Show, starring Michael Patrick Shields.
Great to be with you, Michael Patrick. You're the show I would want to be on. Forget those other ones.
Michael Patrick, it's always a pleasure to be on the air with the King of the Airwaves. Thanks for having me on again.
That's a very good question.
Those are all great questions. Good morning.
Thank you. Michigan's Michael Patrick Shields.
The U.S. government has purchased an additional 200 million doses of Moderna's COVID vaccine. It's meant to last through 2022. Activist and comedian Jon Stewart is going viral for his theory about the origins of COVID-19. While appearing on The Late Show, the former Daily Show host said it's obvious the virus leaked from a Chinese lab.
Maybe a bat flew into the cloaca of a turkey, and then it sneezed into my chili, and now we all have coronavirus.
Floridians with nonviolent COVID-related offenses like not wearing masks or social distancing are being pardoned. GOP Governor Ron DeSantis has okayed it.
And also just a recognition that a lot of this stuff was way, way overboard.
Health updates, Sarah Lee Kessler, NBC News Radio.
I'm Tony Cuthbert with your Spotlight Sports Update. The Tigers completed a 3-game sweep of the Royals with a 6-5 win yesterday. Willie Castro belted a 2-run homer to help spark a 3-run 7th inning to put Detroit ahead for good. The Tigers begin a 4-game series against the Los Angeles Angels tonight. Detroit pitcher Matt Manning makes his Major League Baseball debut in the opener against LA hurler Shohei Ohtani. Manning was a first-round pick by the Tigers in 2016 and is rated as the team's number 3 prospect. The Hawks rallied from a 26-point deficit as they beat the 76ers 109-106 in Game 5 from Philadelphia. Trae Young led the way with 39 points as the Hawks have taken a 3-2 series lead. In Salt Lake City, the Clippers picked up a 119-111 win over the Jazz in Game 5. LA now leads that series 3-2.
Welcome back to the Audrey Dahlgren Show.
You want to win, don't you? Well, I think I'd really rather try to beat him honestly.
The Spotlight Radio Network.
Well, it was a busy day, it has been a busy day and a busy morning at Secchia Stadium. And that's because the state tournament continues to roll on there in softball. And our Ian Kress was actually at the game this morning between Owosso and Gaylord. And it looks like Owosso is going to be playing for a state championship.
Yeah, they got it done, Audrey. They were able to get 2 early runs in the second inning, and that was all Macy Erlin needed. As you know, we talked about her the last couple of days, that she is a strike-throwing machine, or queen, as you said last night, and she was dominant again today and allowed just 1 run as Owosso was able to get the job done today.
Wow, that's incredible. So essentially, if you missed Ian's story last night on WLNS, the Six Sports Player of the Week, it was our final one of the 2020-21 season, and Macy Ireland has pitched every inning except for 1 for Owosso softball team. And so how many strikeouts did she end up with today?
She finished with 8, which to her standards I feel like are not that great, but to most people that's a pretty good number. But she finished with 8, and her defense really backed her up out there. They made some really nice plays in the outfield, especially when there was runners on base. There was a couple nice plays by the outfielders by the warning track. So it was a total team effort today, but Macy, of course, was pretty much the star of just how she was on the mound.
So after the game then, who were you able to speak to? You probably talked to Coach Joellen Smith and probably Macy as well. So tell us, what they had to say following the win.
Yeah, well, they were just so excited. I mean, they were just like, they didn't even know what to say most of the time. But a big thing was the crowd. They were just so amazed by the crowd we had here at Secchia Stadium for this game. I mean, it was like 10 or 15 months in the making, the crowd that we had. It was like COVID was gone and it wasn't a thing. It never happened. It was amazing to see Secchia Stadium just packed with people. And it was a sight to see. The players even said after the game that they couldn't even hear sometimes. Like they had to wait until they got to the dugout to understand what coach was screaming to them from, when they were out in the field. So it was loud. The Owosso fans really showed out. They had signs. They were making all sorts of noise from the very first pitch to the very last pitch, and it was a sight to see. I'll tell you that. But you'll see that though tonight at 6.
Awesome. That's great to hear. And yes, it is different for a lot of our high school teams because, number one, they don't ever get to play really essentially in a stadium that is as nice as Secchia Stadium. But to have all of those people, yes, in attendance, what was your initial reaction to when you saw everybody there? Because, we've been covering events and really it hasn't been as what we would like to call like a normal size crowd probably until today.
Yeah, it took me by surprise for a minute. I was like, wow, this is nuts. But I was like, this is what we've been used to. Well, before the pandemic, this is what we were used to. But what what we went through the last 15 months. We weren't used to this, and we've been able to go to games. Like we were at a number of Michigan State baseball games, but it wasn't a full house. It was every seat was filled. It was standing room only basically, and it was like, whoa, this is cool. I like this. Let's go back to this.
Right. Yeah. It's nice to see everybody again. And so now, after speaking with them as well, do you have this sense that they are ready to win a state championship?
Oh, yeah, I definitely think that. I think this was definitely a good motivation for them, knowing that they can win the close game. I know they've been doing that the last couple of games, but to really kind of take the lead early on and hold on to it until the very end, I think is a big boost for them. They didn't have to waste too many pitches, as Macy had a no-hitter through 4 innings, so she wasn't throwing a whole lot of pitches, which means she'll probably be good to go on Saturday in the state championship game. But they're definitely ready to go. They're ready to continue their story, they said, and just continue to make history for the Owosso softball program.
Yeah, and this one wasn't as dramatic, because the last
it
couple
almost was.
Okay.
It almost was. The Gaylord scored in the bottom of the 7th inning, the final inning. They scored 1 run, and they did originally have the tying run on first, but they were able to throw them out stealing to make that the second out of the inning, and then Macy got the strikeout to end the inning. So it got a little interesting in the final inning, but at the end of the day, Macy did what she's been doing all year, striking people out.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you coming on quickly just to tell us a little bit of how it all transpired today, and I can't wait to see the highlights tonight. And everybody out there will have all the highlights from Secchia Stadium, and Ian's going to have a little post-game report, so that'll be nice too.
It'll all be electric.
Electric. Love it. All right. Thanks, I'll see you later today.
All right. See you, Audrey.
All right, Alex, they got it done. One more win, state championship.
Yeah, that's exciting. I mean, for a community team to keep it rolling and potentially win that state championship, something that they've been wanting to do obviously for many years now, that haven't been able to quite get over that hump. So yeah, we're all pulling for you and the Lansing area.
I think too the cool thing about it, as Joellen Smith was mentioning yesterday, is the resiliency of her team, and it just shows again today. I mean, in a sense, when Gaylord, as Ian was just mentioning, they put a run in the bottom of the 7th, but they were able to hold on and win, and so that's part of being resilient. And the crowd thing, it was nice. Wasn't it nice to hear?
You could hear it in the background. Yeah. I had to mute Ian a few times while you were talking because it was getting so rowdy over there. So that's what you love to see. I mean, it's finally kind of getting back to normal.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay, so one last thing that we're going to touch upon before we go and end today's hashtag Throwback Thursday show is a big-time recruit decided to commit to Michigan State's football program yesterday. Alex, don't know if you saw this, but Braden Miller, he is an offensive tackle from Aurora, Colorado. He is 6'7". He is 290 pounds, and he is a big boy. So literally when I say that they got a big get, literally and kind of figuratively.
Oh, yeah. No, you got to love what Mel's doing with the recruiting so far. I mean, the 2022 class already with 4 offensive lineman commits, all guys that are just massive. I'm looking right now, and we have 6'5", 305, 6'6", 340, 6'7", 290, and 6'7", 270. Those are 2 guys that'll be well into the 300s by the time they get a strength and conditioning summer or winter under their belts. I mean, if nothing else, Michigan State's line moving forward is going to be big, and they're going to be mean.
Yeah, and the other part about that, too, as well, is the fact that they were actually able to come onto campus. They've been able to come onto campus now. So the weekend of June 4th was the first time that Mel Tucker as well as Tom Izzo were able to finally host recruits and to get them on the campus for their official visits. And you've heard Mel Tucker talk about it so many times that there is nothing that beats having people in face-to-face, have them on campus. He goes, all I need to do is just get these players on campus for an in-person visit. And he's like convinced that he can basically
get just about
just
anyone.
get about anybody.
The response from the recruits and the people that have gone on visits has been overwhelmingly positive too. I mean, they were able to get a commit from Quavion Carter on the spot, basically while they were doing his, and he had visits scheduled after Michigan State too, and basically said, no, this is where I want to be. 6'4", 200-pound, safety, which could be like a hybrid linebacker type, and he's going to be a very, very special player, I think, from watching his film. Big hitter, and they're definitely impressing on the recruiting front.
And with his commitment with Braden, and I'm going back to Braden Miller too. The class nationally for 2022 is now roughly in between, like, ranked as the 20th to like 26th best class in the country, and so it's kind of wavering in between 20 and 26th, which that's decent. There's still a lot of people from that class, though, that they were able to that Tucker was able to host over the June 4th weekend, the first batch of recruits, and then I had a second batch this last weekend. And it's cool to me how Tucker and Izzo team up together on the recruiting
That collaboration's
front.
Awesome. I mean, you gotta love Tom too for just being willing and understanding the importance and the significance of him being present during those visits. I mean, everybody. I mean, you're trying to basically sell what your coaching staff is going to be on the football front, but now right next door you have an accomplished legend that every one of these kids knows who that is. I mean, he is Tom Izzo. If you watch sports or watch basketball in any capacity, you pretty much know who Tom Izzo is. So to have that awareness of what that could do for the recruiting front is impressive, and you just gotta love what you're seeing.
Yeah, and they work really well together. And there was, when Tucker had those 10 kids in June 4th weekend, the first weekend, and 10 sets of parents. And, so that's a lot to manage. But Tom Izzo did stop by Mel Tucker's house to, meet and kind of just say, like, hey, like, we're in this together. Like, the football program and the basketball program work very closely together. And so I will share this news now then, because this is pretty exciting with all of the things that are happening at Michigan State within Michigan State's football program. There's, like I said, the recruiting's really ramping up. They're in the midst of their summer conditioning. That's a huge emphasis for Mel Tucker in his program. We've talked about that several times. And so Mel Tucker is actually going to come on the show tomorrow.
Exciting. Yes. No, this has been I wouldn't say a long time coming, but something that I've been definitely looking forward to for a while now. And, get to meet him, shake his hand, and be in studio.
Well,
this is gonna be awesome.
Well, yeah. So he that might get changed a little bit, just because
there's always no.
But hopefully, he's maybe hoping to come into the studio to do it. But if that doesn't happen, he'll of course call in. And so, for your sake, I hope that he comes. For my
sake, I'm rooting for him to come in. That'd be awesome. He's just got a presence about him that is very captivating, and I'm excited to meet him, whether it's over the phone or in person, and just be able to pick his brain for an hour. That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Like I said, there's so many different things to touch upon that we will touch upon with Mel Tucker tomorrow from 12 to 1 on our hashtag Friday Feel show. And I guess that, like, what a way to end the weekend with a bang like that. That's definitely a good thing right there. And so, yeah, it'll be exciting to have him on. And actually, as you mentioned, he has a certain way that he approaches things when it comes to kind of being more not more hip with the times. I don't want to say that. That makes him sound old.
No, but I know what you're saying. He can relate to generations below and above him, and he does it very well.
And we're going to touch upon that and how it is actually helping him, like, from a recruiting standpoint. And so anyway, but that does it for our hashtag Throwback Thursday show. If you have something that you'd like to share, a moment that you're very fond of, or a memory that you love, you can always just, pop that on my Facebook page at the Audrey Dahlgren Show, or at Dahlgren Show on Twitter. And don't forget that you can always listen live to each of my episodes by downloading the Spotlight Radio Network One Touch app. Have a fantastic rest of your Thursday.